Hey there again. I'm back one more time, and I'm going to be modding a different Nerf gun this time, the one you see right here. And the reason I want to modify this one is because of the way it looks. It looks pretty interesting. I kind of like the way it looks. However, this front part here is essentially too massive to do nothing. So what does it do, you ask? Well, it stores an extra 5 darts. So when this is the one that obviously you're shooting, and then when that one's gone, you take one from here and you slot it in there, and then shoot again. So, I mean, I suppose that's kind of helpful, but it just looks way massive. And I mean, even if it was to the point where there was like two spots, that'd be kind of cool, but I mean 5, I mean it's getting a little heavy. And you can see that's the profile of the gun normally. And now my initial plan for this was just to get rid of this whole part down here. And I'm just going to show you what that looks like by overlaying another piece of white paper there. And now I'm sure you can see now how much better the gun looks, or at least in my opinion it does. I mean, it just simply looks more like an actual real gun. So, and now that I'm opening it up, now I kind of want to do mods again instead of just shaving off parts. But anyways, here we go. So, take this thing apart. You just undo all the screws like normal. And I do recommend, if you haven't already figured this out, to get a long but yet skinny shaft screwdriver, Phillips head, because a lot of these hole wells are quite deep. Okay? So after you've taken off all the screws, and I mean you can kind of see where they are, of course if you have your own gun you can look, and one thing is after you get all the screws off and you try separating it, it still doesn't want to come, like you forgot a screw somewhere. And don't worry, that's not, you didn't forget anything, it's just that this bottom part here, I don't know if there was like glue here or just, you know, really pressed tight together, but you just literally have to kind of separate it. You're not going to break the gun, just realize that that's the one. So what I did after I did that, and how I got apart, is I went ahead and stuck a flat head in the space, or the crease, right, in the crease, and then when I stuck the flat head, I stuck it in, and I turned it to pry it open. And once you do that, you're going to get this. Okay, so here's the other half. This is just simply the shell half. I mean, there's nothing in there. This is the part that we're obviously concerned about. And, okay, and I'm this time, since my last video, a lot of people were losing these little springs. I thought I'd show you where they are before we do anything. So, one spring's there. Essentially pushes the trigger back forward, or returns the trigger. There's a spring here. This spring is what holds the cocking mechanism back. So, it holds the bolt back, essentially, until you push the trigger. So, there's that spring right there. And this little spring up here, I don't know if you guys can see that. Okay, there we go. That spring does nothing more than where you attach the extra parts to the rail. It pushes that down, and then when you eject them, it pops back up. So that's not vital, but anyways, that's a little spring. And let's see, is there any other ones? Okay, so that's it. So, oh, and of course the main big bad boy spring here. But that's, I mean, if you lose that, then you really got problems, and you're kind of blind. Anyways. Alright, so what I've done here is I've taken out all the main functioning parts of the gun. Essentially, with what I have here, well, of course, if you held this, you could essentially use this to launch the dart, okay? And for those old-timers, you might remember the first Nerf guns were nothing more than basically a big version of this, where you jam this in the back, you held up here, you push this, and the big Nerf balls would pop out the front. Okay, so anyways, okay, so we can see all the parts here, from the dart, barrel, shaft of the syringe, and then of course the plunger and the spring, and again this little guy holds the thing in fire position. Okay, so anyways, I could just go ahead and launch this dart out, but I mean you already can pretty much figure what that looked like. But here we're actually going to go through the parts that make this work. Now first is the barrel. The barrel is actually more important than a lot of people give it credit for. Of course, you've probably seen some people extend the barrel. But why is the barrel important? It's because this has to fit in snug. If it's not the right diameter, the air is just going to go around the projectile, and hence it won't go anywhere. You'll just get a puff of air, and this will stay, well, this will stay down in the barrel, and nothing will happen. Okay. So this diameter, okay, is important. You get that. All right, here's the next thing. Here's the needle, or whatever you want to call it, yeah, okay, we'll call it the needle tip, where the dart actually mounts around. And now, if you see these little things here, it's a little triad, and you can see it's spring-loaded. And you might say, well, what does this do? Okay, first thought you might think, oh, I see, this holds the base of the dart. But as you can see, that doesn't work. It just pushes the dart basically outwards. So that's your first clue that this thing right here is probably not having anything to do with the actual firing function of it. In fact, it kind of takes away from the firing, and I think you can guess right there what I mean by that. This here is your restrictor, air restrictor, okay? But to see that, we're going to open this up. So you take this needle head off, and be careful because there's a spring in there. Here's the spring. Now, as you could see before when I was pushing down on the restrictor, that little triad, it was popping back up. That's due to this guy here, the spring. So we're going to take this little guy out, okay? Okay, and now what we have is the air restrictor fell down. Okay, so here, now when you take that out, of course, the air restrictor falls out the back. Okay, so for those who want to see it, alright, look, see, there it was in there, tip it over, and, oop, it fell out. Okay, good. So, here our little air restrictor, here he is, whoop, we don't need him. Okay, so now what's going to happen is we're just going to go ahead and put this thing back together. I'll let you see, you know, let's do this real quick. I think this is kind of cool. So here is your the body of the syringe. Here's our plunger. So this obviously pushes forward, and then the air comes rushing around the holes. Can you see those holes there? Maybe if I do this, it'll help. Okay, now you can see them. You see the holes? You can see my hand behind? That's what the air rushes around. Now, you could probably remove this too, this little thing where the spring was holding or pushing against the air restrictor. This core here, you can remove that, but I'm thinking the air coming around the sides here is more than enough. So, you might say, well, then do we really get rid of the restriction? And yes, we did, because now if we put this back together real quick, put this back there, and then, okay, well, that's good. You can see now. Okay, remember where those triads were poking out of the holes? Here, here, and then on the bottom, there. Now you can see that they're no longer there. So those are just holes, and they're not obstructed by that restrictor. So now the air will come out at a higher velocity. And I actually tested this by, like, again, just doing the old Nerf gun plunger pusher thing. And without the air restrictor, even with less force, the dart went further. Okay? So there it is. You got your restrictor removed. Alright, as you can see, I just got done cutting off these parts here. Alright. So, these now are junk, and we have the two halves here that I went ahead and cut off. Now, you might ask what I do to get that part sawed off. I use my snips, which to get the main part, obviously, is I use this guy here. Simple hand saw here. And then this to get rid of some of the, harder to pick out places. So, these two tools, pretty much anyone has those. I recommend, obviously, wearing some eye protection for when you snip off those corners. Sometimes the little pieces go flying. And I also wore a leather glove. So, anyways, but that should be basic knowledge. Safety first, right? Okay, so anyways, what we got left to do now is essentially just put this thing back together with our air restrictor removed. And there we go, folks. You can see the modded one at the top and the stock one at the bottom. And I definitely know what one I think looks better. So, and one other thing is I wanted to show you here. This is perfectly normal. Keep in mind that you weren't basically supposed to see the underneath because it was covered by that. But so if you see this, that's normal. I would suggest maybe just put a piece of like black duct tape there, or like electrical tape, and then you can color this whole bottom side black, and then that part black too. So then you'll have black going all the way up underneath the gun. Alright, so what I decided to do to show the power is I filled up this little carbonated water drink bottle here with some water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take 2 shots at it. Once with our stock gun, and then once with the one I just got done modding. Now, I'm going to use the same dart for both, and I'm going to shoot from the same distance. So the only variable should be the 2 different guns. Okay? I'm going to try and knock this thing down. Alright. Okay, first one here, stock. Okay, Saw it almost fell over, but still no cigar, so set it now. Now the modded one with the air restrictor removed. And I think that pretty much does it for us right there. This one does have more power. Oh, and it looks better too.